shakya amevam vidorjuna yatum drashtum tatatena aveshtitum parantapa. My dear Arjuna, 55. Mad karma krin mat paramo mad bhakta sangavarjitaha. Nirvarayar sarvabhuteshu samam iti pandava. My dear Arjuna,
one who is engaged in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of previous activities and from mental speculation, who is friendly to every living entity, certainly comes to me.
one thing is, mental speculation includes how we're looking at ourselves, how we consider ourselves. We may think that we're very evil, bad spirit, something like that. That's not really the philosophy. And as we know what the nature of the soul is, we can understand our spiritual nature is that we're Krishna conscious. But because of being associated with modes of material nature and the contaminations, we've lost our healthy glow, our healthy presentation. So now we have to regain our health by devotional service. So it helps to have transcendental knowledge instead of speculating. Better to understand things from the scripture. Because by only speculating, I'm a bad soul, he's a good soul, or whatever we may speculate, it won't be correct. Whereas if we understand we're all parts and parcels of the Supreme, every living entity is a part and parcel of Krishna. And in that sense, is the son of Krishna. He's the seed-giving father of all living entities. Therefore, they're all children of Krishna. So we shouldn't hate any particular children of Krishna. We should try to feel brotherhood and appreciation and love for all living entities. Chapter 12. That's it. That's it. Chapter 12, text 1. Arjuna Vacha Evam Tata Yuktaye Bhaktastam Parayupasate Ye Chapyaksharam Avyaktam Tesham Ke Yoga Vittama. Arjuna inquired,
which is considered to be more perfect, those who are properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested?
Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Veshamano Yema Nityayukta Upasate Adhaya Parayo Petas Te Me Yuktamamataha. Blessed Lord said,
he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be most perfect.
Well, which one does that refer to? Yeah, but question is, who are more perfect? Those engaging in your devotional service or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, manifest. So, what is Krishna saying? Text 2. He's answering that. And he says, read it again. Be clear, it's straightforward. The personal, those who worship the personal form are more perfect than impersonalists. Okay, text 3, 4. Ye taksharam anudesham vyaktam parupasate savitra gamachintyam cha kutashtam achalam dhruvam saniyam yendriya brahma avatrasa epapnivanti brahmeva sarvabhuta hiterataha. But those who fully worship the unmanifested,
perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone. Such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me.
they're also trying. They're trying to get free from the cycle of birth and death. They're trying to get out of the suffering of material life. They've understood. They're Gyanis. They know they're not the body, but they don't know exactly what they are. They know they're not matter, but they don't know what spirit is for them. And instead of asking Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita is not a new book. It's been around a long time. All they have to do is ask Krishna. Krishna explains everything. But instead of doing that, they speculate. Maybe I'm God. Maybe I'm the same as God. Maybe everything is revolving around me, my desire. Maybe I'm just creating all this. None of this really exists except me. I'm the only one that exists. And you're all just part of mine. Therefore, I'm the supreme. That's why it takes a long time, because it'd be difficult to put that into practice, that you're the supreme. So therefore, they take a long time. Bahunam janmanamante jnanamam prapajate. After many births and deaths. Because it's not directly, it's like trying to have a combination, trying to get open this big vault. You're locked in a vault, trying to get out, trying to get the combination. And it's a big one, so it's got 100 digits, and you don't know which way it goes to the beginning. Is it left or right? And you don't know what the numbers are, so you're just spinning around, trying. You're becoming desperate because your air supply is running out, your food supply is running out. Someone comes and says, "Is there someone in there?" "Yeah." "Would you like to get out?" "Yeah." "You want the combination?" "No, I'll work it out. I'll get it my own time." So it's, next text. 5. Lesho dugataras tesham avyakta sakta chedasa avyakta higate dukam dehavad bhira narapshita. For those whose minds
Are attached to the unmanifested and personal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
it's a very important verse to remember, because klesha is troublesome. Everything they do is troublesome. Nothing's easy because for the embodied soul, how can he try to be something, not have a body? He has a body. And he's a person. How can you not be, try to act like you're not a person? And then they try by being quiet. But they can't be quiet. They like to speak, or they like to write on a little black whiteboard. They come to our temple sometimes, and they're taking the piece in there. They're pressing Mona. They get a lot of people impressed. Oh, Mona. And then in the middle of the discussion, gets some point they want to discuss, so they start writing. I take it, no, you practice Mona. You need to write it. Just listen. It's better for them to hear than for them to speak. Because they don't have the knowledge. If one speaks and he doesn't have knowledge, that's really detrimental. That's violence. Right? Imagine if you speak to someone, you're trying to give some very high information about how to run a car or an automobile or airplane or something, and you don't know what you're talking about. And then when they find out that so many planes they crash because they followed the instructions, then you'll be considered a horrible creature. How did you do that? So that's the thing. And that's why Ishopanishad says it's bad enough being engaged in material activities and activities against the instructions of the Vedas. But then if you give instructions like you know Vedas and you're a teacher, that's even worse. We're still those engaged in this culture of so-called knowledge. That's like the snake that has a jewel on his forehead. Snake with a jewel in the forehead is as dangerous as a snake without a jewel in the forehead, but he's more dangerous because people think, well, maybe I'll get the snakes. Maybe I'll get that jewel. That's dangerous trying to get the jewel. I will go back to text 5, or excuse me, 51 in the previous chapter. Someone wants to read the translation and purport.
When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, "Seeing this human-like form so very beautiful, my mind is now pacified, and I am restored to my original nature." Purport. Here the words Manusham Rupam clearly indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be originally two-handed.
Yeah, it said that man is created after the image of God. Isn't it? Not that man is, or that God is created in the image of man. No, his two-handed form, that's the original form. Some people say, well, that's just, we're so proud. We humans, we like to think that God must look like us. Oh, we are proud, that's true. But in this case, it happens to be correct that God in his original form is Ete Changsa Kalangsa. Ete Changsa Kalapam Krishna's two Bhagavans. Enjoy back on Lokam Really unto you. He is the source of all the other living entities. And the original form is the Shamasundar form, Navayovana, eternally youthful, adolescent. So that form of the Lord, that's the supreme form. The other forms are not less in one sense, but still, the original is still the original. The other forms are transcendental, absolute, Advaita, Machuta, Manan, Adyam Purana, Purusham Nama Yovanam. That's it. That's how Krishna is appearing in Goloka Vrindavan. Maybe Krishna, some back to baby Krishna. That's very nice. Krishna assumes all these forms to perform his pastimes and to interact with his devotees. And in the next text, what?
The blessed Lord said, "My dear Arjuna, the form which you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form which is so dear." Purport. In the 48th verse of this chapter, Lord Krishna concluded revealing his universal form and informed Arjuna that this form is not possible to be seen by so many activities, sacrifices, etc. Now, here the word Sudardarsham is used, indicating that Krishna's two-handed form is still more confidential. One may be able to see the universal form of Krishna by adding a little tinge of devotional service to various activities like penance, Vedic study, and philosophical speculation, etc. It may be possible, but without a tinge of bhakti, one cannot see. That has already been explained. Still, beyond that universal form, the form of Krishna as a two-handed man is still more difficult to see. Even for demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva, they desire to see him. We have evidences in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when he was supposed to be in the womb of his mother Devaki, all the demigods from heaven came to see the marble of Krishna. They even waited to see him. A foolish person may deride him, but that is an ordinary person. Krishna is actually desired to be seen by demigods like Brahma and Shiva in his two-armed form. In Bhagavad Gita, it is also confirmed that he is not visible to the foolish persons who deride him. Krishna's body is confirmed by Brahma Samhita and confirmed by himself in Bhagavad Gita. It is completely spiritual and full of bliss and eternality. His body is never like a material body, but for someone who make a study of Krishna by reading Bhagavad Gita or similar Vedic scriptures, Krishna is a problem. For one using a material process, Krishna is considered to be a great historical personality and very learned philosopher, but he isn't an ordinary man. But some think that even though he was so powerful, he had to accept a material body. Ultimately, they think that the absolute truth is impersonal. Therefore, they think that from his impersonal feature, he assumed a personal feature attached to material nature. This is a materialistic calculation of the Supreme Lord. Another calculation is speculative. Those who are in search of knowledge also speculate on Krishna and consider him to be less important than the universal form of the Supreme. Thus, some think that the universal form of Krishna, which was manifested to Arjuna, is more important than his personal form. According to them, the personal form of the Supreme is something imaginary. They believe that in the ultimate issue, the absolute truth is not a person, but the transcendental process is described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. To hear about Krishna from authorities, that is the actual Vedic process. And those who are actually in the Vedic line hear about Krishna from authority. And by repeated hearing about him, Krishna becomes dear. As we have several times discussed, Krishna is covered by his Yogamaya potency. He is not to be seen or revealed to anyone and everyone. Only by one to whom he reveals himself can he be seen. This is confirmed in Vedic literature. For one who is a surrendered soul, the absolute truth can actually be understood. The transcendentalist, by continuous Krishna consciousness and by devotional service to Krishna, can have his spiritual eyes opened and can see Krishna by revelation. Such a revelation is not possible even for the demigods. Therefore, it is difficult even for the demigods to understand Krishna, and the advanced demigods are always in hope of seeing Krishna in his two-handed form. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very, very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand his personal form as Shama Sundara.
Hare Krishna. It says, It says, one may be able to see the universal form of Krishna by adding a little tinge of devotional service to various like he says, a little tinge of devotional service, and then later on it may be possible, but without a tinge of bhakti. So, is it saying that devotional service and bhakti are the same thing, or are they saying it's two different things? Same thing. Okay.
I was wondering if the universal form, if we see that, then we automatically go back to Godhead. Because, yeah, could you help me?
As far as I understood it from what we read yesterday, that the universal form is manifested by his internal potency. So in that sense, I mean, he says, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tadvadaha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sarjana. The one who understands the transcendental nature of my activities, his appearance and his activities, they attain that nature. They go to him. So because when you see the Lord, I basically that's all I really got on that. Does that kind of help? Do you need me to clarify it a little bit more? That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is nice purport. In the 9th chapter, Krishna says, Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitram idam uttamam Pataksha Vagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartam Avyayam. This knowledge is the most confidential knowledge. Krishna consciousness, knowledge of Krishna is the most confidential. So there are degrees of confidentiality in spiritual knowledge. The first one is knowledge of the soul, the self, and still more confidential than that is knowledge relating to devotional service, like karma yoga. Krishna goes to that. He starts with knowledge of the soul in the 2nd chapter. And he goes, takes it a step further, karma yoga. Now we're getting knowledge pertaining to devotional service or serving Krishna or acting for Krishna, acting in Krishna consciousness. And then even more so is knowledge directly about Krishna himself. So Krishna is the most confident. Is out the grasp of the living entities, conditioned intelligence, methods for speculation, outside of the grasp of the senses, the material senses. So we have to rely on this process of devotional service in order to understand Krishna. In order to get that knowledge of what's beyond actually the coverings of the material universe, that topmost spiritual abode, it's beyond the Brahman effulgence, it's beyond the Vaikuntha planets, it's Goloka Vrindavan, and there the Lord is seated in his most personal feature. In the Brahma Samhita, there's Brahma Samhita contains so many nice descriptions of this abode and the Lord who's there. Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha lakshmi sahasra shatasam brahma sevyamanam. It's like that, like Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha, that the abode of Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan is touchstone, and all the trees there are wish-fulfilling trees, kalpa vrikshas, and the Lord is there, Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahma Sevyamana, and they're surrounded by unlimited goddesses of fortune who are worshipping him there, and from the gopis. And so the devotee has access to that realm, that highest realm, by dint of his love. It's just his love. By his pure love for Krishna, he's able to tap into that. Like a radio frequency is tuned into it in the heart, through the heart. Just like the Goswamis, 6 Goswamis, they were living in Gokula Vrindavan. And if one goes there with his mundane senses, he'll just see just mundane trees, like that, and mundane hills. But actually the Goswamis were sleeping under the trees, and they were in full consciousness that those trees are the servants of the Lord, and they're kalpa vrikshas, they're wish-fulfilling trees. And that the land there is touchstone. And that the residents there are the Dhammavasis. They're the pure devotees of the Lord living in the Dham. So we chant this prayer, Vansa kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. That's a very nice prayer to the Vaishnavas, which is glorifying them as wish-fulfilling trees, oceans of mercy, full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. So that's the Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas are so wonderful. So many of our acharyas are praying all the time are glorifying this sadhu sangha, association of the Vaishnavas, above all else. It's really nice. Like every morning we also sing after Guru Puja, we sing Hare Nama Krishna, that one, and it is Tadira Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanebas Janame Janame Hoy E Avilas. That Janame Janame Hoy, my wish, my desire is to take birth after birth in the association of the devotees. So that's Narottam Das Thakur is praying like that. Am I taking shelter of the devotees? That's really the sure method of attaining love of Godhead. And that's the foundation of the whole creeper of bhakti, is sadhu sangha. Because when we take the association of devotees, that's how we get strong faith. You won't get faith unless you come in contact with somebody who has strong faith. That's the best way to do it, because they can bestow upon you everything you need for all your success in devotional life. It comes from the sadhus and spiritual master, and he can give that to you, So it's nice. We just have to pray for some humility, pray for some tolerance, and then we can actually thrive amongst devotees and take full advantage of the association. And devotees are so merciful that even we don't have humility and tolerance, they'll give it to us. And then with that, we can ask for more from them, because they also have that humility and tolerance. So how else are we going to get it except from them, from their blessings, from their mercy, So the spiritual master, he knows that confidential truth, Krishna. And he's very merciful, and that he distributes it very freely, very openly, to everybody. What to speak of somebody who sincerely surrenders and gives his ear? That's the beginning process. That's the foundation of devotional service, is Shravanam. Just hearing, and then Kirtanam, and then the other processes. But the most powerful limb of this process that we're practicing is Shravanam, it's hearing. So when we hear, then very quickly all of that transcendental knowledge can become realized within us. But it's not actually so easy to hear, because the senses are contaminated, the mind is contaminated. So I'll be in the temple, but then my mind is totally somewhere else. I'm not able to hear. Therefore, we have a whole process that we've been given. We can come to the temple any time and get plugged in to various activities, which are wonderful. Landscaping, all the eating prasadam, honoring prasadam, all these different things. And by engaging in these activities, which are related to devotional service and our devotional service when we perform them with that service attitude. But even still, if I don't have that and I stumble in the temple without that, anyways, I am engaging in activities which are connected to Krishna, and the devotees will guide me and help me see that and help me appreciate that, and help me cultivate that service attitude. So the program is so nice because we plug in and we get purified, and then we are able to hear properly, and then there transcendental knowledge. The intelligence is properly engaged in Krishna consciousness, and one is making sure and steady progress back to Godhead. So those are some things. Anyone have any comments or questions? Okay, so let's continue. Text 53. The form which you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. Purport. Krishna first appeared before his parents Devaki and Vasudeva in a four-handed form. And then he transformed himself into the two-handed form. So this is nice. Let's see. We're approaching this month called Kartik. It's a very special month. It's centered around Damodar Leela, these pastimes of baby Krishna. Damodar specifically means one who is bound by Mother Yashoda's love. So it's Damodar Leela is a specific pastime in which baby Krishna is doing some naughty activity, and then his mother was trying to go about her duties, and she wanted to make sure that he was pacified. So she thought to tie him to a grinding mortar to pacify him, and she got some rope and she tried to tie him up. She found that the rope was 2 inches too short, so she got some more rope, extended her the binding rope, and still again found that it was too short. So she struggled with this until Krishna was satisfied, and then he allowed her to bind him. So Krishna here is saying, the form which you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. Yeah, Krishna says that the qualification to see him is that one must be his devotee, one must be his friend, And this is confirmed elsewhere in the Vedic scriptures, that only with love can we see him. Only with purified senses, by engaging senses in his service, they become purified. Because we come in contact with him. Krishna is all pure. then when the senses come in contact with him, they become pure as well. He purifies everything. So only when we become pure and we're able to see with purified vision, purified love, then we can see him and we can understand him as he is. So that's kind of the essence of that pastime, is that only once Krishna was satisfied with Mother Yashoda's love, she was so worried, so worried that, okay, transcendental anxiety and transcendental, she was chastising him out of love, he's being naughty, he's breaking a pot, or he's doing something like that. So he was satisfied with her love, and he allowed himself to be bound by her rope. So let's see. This mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheists or who are devoid of devotional service. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by way of speculation or out of mere academic interest, Krishna is not easy to understand. Nor is he to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship. They make their visit, but they cannot understand Krishna as he is. Krishna cannot be understood only through the path of Krishna can be understood only through the path of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself in the next verse. The next verse. Translation, my dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So undivided devotional service is the process, the goal. That's what we're after. Undivided devotion, unalloyed devotional service. It's not tinged with anything, particularly the main contaminations that are there are karma or fruit of activities and jnana or mental speculation. I'm approaching the Lord as a business, for some kind of business inquiry. Okay, I'll do this and you give me this, Or if I do this, then I deserve this. So I'll just do that. That'll be the basis of my activities. That'll be the intention of my activities. Oh, I'll just do this and then I'll get this. But I'm actually imposing my own intention over the intention of the Lord. The intention of the Lord is that everything is engaged in his service, pure devotional service, and that the living entities are engaged in pure devotional service. That's the intention. That's the intention of the living entity. But when the living entity is in material consciousness contaminated, then he's imposing his own intention over everything. So, okay, this is for my enjoyment, or I'm going to do like this and I'm going to get this, like that. But that's not particularly pleasing to the Lord. It's not very nice. Not a very nice thing. And mental speculation, instead of surrendering to the Lord or surrendering to the spiritual authorities, then I'll just go on and just, speculate on how I can go around and get what I want without having to follow the process which has been laid out by the acharyas. So unalloyed devotional service means that it's pure bhakti and it's not tinged. The intention is not tinged with any lesser thing, lesser desire, lesser motive, motive for personal gain, like that. And only when we're engaged in that unalloyed devotional service 24 hours, then we'll be satisfied. The self will be satisfied. Because the real nature of the self will be uncovered at that point. That's the means for uncovering that. Then you can taste the ecstasy of being the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, who's the supreme enjoyer. We come in contact with the supreme enjoyment, then there's no question of our own enjoyment, especially if we're being enjoyed by him in a way which is very pleasing to him and very pleasing to us and is in line with our real identity as his servants. if he's enjoying that pure devotional service that we're rendering to him, then there's no question of our enjoyment. It's just unlimited nectar, you know. So, anyways, we're almost out of time.
I'm sorry, Babaji. I just had a realization in looking at the purports, and it's funny because it's not a paradox because it's explicit, but the consideration from the Prabhupada's purport of 53 just plainly says Krishna is not easy to understand. And then it says in the purport for 54, Krishna can be understood only by the process of undivided devotional service. He explicitly explains this. So he's very difficult to understand, but it could not be more clear of how to come to an understanding of him. Like he's hitting everybody over the head again, again, and again. And it's not necessarily easy, but it couldn't be more simple. And that's
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, just like Mother Yashoda, she couldn't do it. She tried so hard, you know. It's just really working up a sweat trying to do that. You know, he didn't allow it to happen. Of course, he's the Supreme Lord, so it's like if he doesn't want it to happen, it doesn't, you know, it's up to him. It's on his terms. Nothing we can do really except try our best and really get serious about it and become sincere. Become, you know, as it's about time to end. So I feel like we can continue this. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.